Where's Julia?
Where is she?
Okay, so we were talking about.
Oh,
are you taking this off?
I got to. I'm very warm. Just
Can I
stop
have this
it.
to put over my legs? Intermission. Do as you please. Thank you. And it has the warmth of my mother inside of it. Okay, we were talking about Grandpa was a carpenter, right? And so so Grandpa was a carpenter, and his dad, my great grandpa, was a carpenter,
Right,
and built trailers.
Yeah, and he taught my dad the trade.
And then Grandpa taught all my uncles. How come he didn't teach you how to do construction?
I was a girl back in that day.
You could have been the only.
That was the culture that you didn't.
You cooked and cleaned. Oh my gosh, Mom, you made all of our clothes. This woman can cook and bake anything, and she can sew anything, and she can go in the yard and find leaves and make a salve out of it and heal you. If there's ever a disaster, you want this woman around. So I just want to say that you can do anything.
It's wonderful when your daughter thinks of you like that.
Well, it's true. I'm not just making it up. You make kombucha. That's going to be a whole other conversation. All the things you do. You make your own kombucha. You just, I don't know. I can't think of anything else. Okay, so back to your story. And I'm sorry that, oh my God.
I am a front tears woman.
Those are nice shoes.
Yeah.
You have good style. Did you get those at the Goodwill?
No, your daddy or Papa bought them for me.
My stepdad.
Your stepdad, your Papa.
Yeah. We'll also talk about all your Goodwill finds.
No, cut that.
No, I'm not cutting any of it. Mom, we don't cut any of this. This is live television, okay?
Mm-hmm. Okay, go ahead.
Are you looking at my warts? I don't have any warts.
No warts on these hands.
I have clean, smooth, beautiful hands. If anybody wants to marry me, I'm available. Okay. Remember when you told me that I was like, I don't think I'm ever going to get married. And you told me that 500,000 babies since the 1980s had been aborted, and my husband was probably one of them.
Yeah. Maybe.
So
did I tell you that?
You did tell me this. And then you went on to talk about something else, leaving me in the dust.
That's horrible.
Feeling defeated. Actually, I think it's hilarious. Because it's probably true. I mean, my husband to be could be dead. Because somebody.
God always has a plan. His original.
Oh my gosh.
Plan.
God has a plan B for when women have abortions.
Not B.
Okay, he has a plan. He has a better plan because he knew that was going to happen.
That's right.
Yeah. So thank you for having me and loving me as your daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was named after my great grandma.
Your grandma. Yeah, your great grandma. Of course. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Billy Jane is such a beautiful name.
Wow, that is not who I was named after.
But I know that. But I wish if I had one more daughter, I would have named her Billy Jane.
I know. I always thought if I had a daughter, I would name her Billy. But I was named after Grandpa, the kamikaze grandpa. His mother,
yes,
I'm named after.
Julia, Virginia.
Yeah. Okay, so Grandpa did construction, or he did stairs, carpenter.
He did piecework, which meant that they had a time frame to finish stuff, and they got a little higher pay. The faster they could get it done. Then they got to antique. You know, he wanted to have an antique shop. So they had gone to some Brunner's or something way back then, and bought beautiful furniture to furnish this home. And then they got interested in antiques, and my dad wanted an antique shop, and so he sold all of our house furniture, and we moved into a rental, and we sold that house, and he took all that he had collected and invested it in going and buying antiques. And they found a house in Bascom Avenue, that not too far from where we had lived, and he opened up an antique shop there.
What was that like? To move it.
So it was an antique shop and an apartment all combined.
Okay. And there was 7 of you guys living.
There was 8 of us.
8 of us.
Yeah, in the antique shop. And my bedroom was off of the kitchen, which was an old laundry room, walkway, outdoor porch area. And I had a curtain into the kitchen, and I had a back door that led to a patio. And off the patio was another apartment that my brothers, my three older brothers, stayed in that apartment, and it was hey, it was home. Mom and Dad and all the family were there. It was just normal to live like that.
Yeah.
That was the years where um, antiquers would go out and find the old furniture and they'd strip them and they'd refurnish them, which in later years was the worst thing ever you could have done, because you wanted the original finish. No matter how bad, you just would maybe put a little oil on it or something, but you would never clean it and strip it. That was the worst thing. Much antique furniture was supposedly ruined, by in later years, it would become worthless. Yeah, I just enjoy I love the sound of clocks in my home. I do.
I like it because it reminds me of Christmas time and holidays, staying the night at Grandma's house. I remember going to Grandma and Grandpa's house for holidays and hearing the chimes and the clocks go off, and almost always they were never
in sync.
in sync. So
right.
it was like,
no, of course not. Yeah, nowhere. You can't keep them in sync.
Yeah, that's impossible. Oh, this is interesting. So my stepmother, right? So my stepmom, her name is Stepmom. She, after my mom and dad divorced, which was a great thing. Everybody's happy about that. Do not worry. It's a great thing. No, I'm not being facetious. I mean,
No,
I'm pretending, but then everyone's happy, so that's good. So, but my dad remarried Renee. And Renee was part of the Pentecostal church. So Renee and her husband, ex-husband Pat, knew my mom's mom and dad, my grandma and grandpa, who owned the antique shop years earlier. So Renee, when she was married to Pat, would oftentimes go visit grandma and grandpa, like at the antique shop, and talk to them. And in fact, to this day, Renee has a piece of furniture she's giving to me that was her piece of furniture when she moved into her first apartment. And so now I'm taking it. So anyways, I'm sorry that I'm not getting to the point of my story, Mom.
So Renee and Pat visited my mom and dad in the antique store before even your dad and I got married, and of course we loved them to death. You know, they were very dear friends.
Yeah. And then you guys divorced, which is a great thing. Don't make me go through that again. It's a great thing. Okay. So then Renee and Dad got married a few years after you remarried.
The next year.
And I think it was like 15 or 16. And so it was a great thing to have my stepmom come back into the family, because she was kind of already part of the family. Religious-wise, she was a part of the family because of the Pentecostal.
In the circle of friendship.
In the circle of friendships.
Right.
And she has a piece of furniture to this day that's from my grandpa's.
Did she buy that at Dad's?
She did. And I think she bought it. It was her, I'll tell you this, it was the first piece of furniture she had at her first apartment. Not her first piece of furniture. It's a piece of furniture she bought for her first apartment. Do you think I stutter? And I have
You're going in a circle.
I really do, and I can't. That's how my mind works. It goes in circles. I don't need that, Mom. I don't need champagne to have my mind go in circles. That's how I am. So anyways, she's part of the family. I don't know what I'm talking about at this point, Mom. Do you think I have a learning disability?
So what actually happened to you in the last few years?
Mom, I've always been like this, and I keep having a fear. I seriously have a fear that one day everybody's going to gather together, everyone that knows me, my friends and my family, and they're going to do an intervention on me, and they're going to say, Julia, you're autistic, and we never told you. You have Asperger's. I'm not making fun of people that have that. I just feel like sometimes, I don't know.
It was all that fourth grade teacher. That's when it all began.
Do you remember my fourth grade teacher,
yes,
Mrs. Myers?
I do. I remember that, and I wish that I had been more held together during that fourth grade year that you had, because your dad and our marriage was over. I was going through nursing school. It was a horrible time of life. And Mrs. Myers did not like you. And I believe that, I don't remember specifically the stories that you told, but you would come home so disturbed and you would say, my teacher doesn't like me. And I think she didn't like you. And that was a terrible, terrible year. And I remember that because of my depression and inability to sleep at all because of the brokenness of our life at home, I was on, I believe, trazodone to help me to sleep and to kind of help me in my depression. I remember that there was one day that you had something weird was going on in your life then, Julia, because I remember one evening I had taken my medication to help me go to sleep. I had to get up at 4 a.m. to start studying for nursing.
Yeah.
And yet you were shaking. You were just like shaking. And I didn't know what to do with you. And so even though I was under the influence of that medication that made me very sleepy, I had to drive you to the ER. And they couldn't really find anything wrong with you. And I took you back home. And there was, and you would have hysterical outbreaks. Hysterical. Do you remember the time that you began to scream and yell, and you were having a breakdown, and I took you to my shower.
I do remember.
And I turned the water on cold, and I turned it full blast on you in all of your clothes and shoes. I didn't know what to do with you.
I remember I was out of control.
And you immediately and cried and began to cry. And so I pulled you out of the shower and undressed you, put you in a warm blanket, and held you until you were calm. I didn't know what to do. I was beside myself, and that was all during this terrible ordeal of a falling apart of the family.
I think probably what it is, and thank God you guys, I mean, yeah, thank God that I wasn't, sometimes people put kids on medication when it's really just a mental, like something, internal or spiritual or whatever. I think what happened was that I sensed the family falling apart. Maybe that was my way of getting attention. Maybe that was my way of trying to get love.
Okay, but in that, I spent my life studying because I knew that if I fell behind of my class, I was going to have to wait till the next semester to pick it up again.
Yeah.
And I couldn't do that. The pressure was on. I had to get through nursing school.
Right. And everyone does their best. There's no perfect family. And every family that thinks they're perfect and you should do this and you should do that, in some way you're hurting your kid, because there's no perfect way to deal with a situation that's broken. Right. Once something's broken, you can never perfectly put the pieces back. But I just want to say, I think I was sensing that. And as a young kid, I was frustrated. I didn't know how to get my feelings out. God, there was just so many.
Everybody was feeling the brokenness.
And I think that was probably my way of, it's just my way of getting my frustration and anger out.
The thing is this is what happens when destruction comes into a family. This is what happens. And then it takes everybody, it takes mom and dad to put it back together again and have a heart to put it back together again, and that was missing in our family.
But I mean, that's okay. It was the end of the marriage, and so you guys.
Well, but the problem and the sorrow and the healing, it comes all through time. You have to work it out.
Yeah.
And it was very destructive. It was very horrible. It destroyed nobody more than us.
Yeah. And I don't think that because obviously we love each other, and I love you and I love Dad, and also I think you guys were so young at the time. You were 17 when you married, and my dad was 23. That's so young. Even 43 is young. 43 is a good age to get married, I think. Be like 37 or 43 or something. I don't know. But that was very young.
But the culture changed.
The culture changed.
The culture changed during my time of getting married. The culture was changing. It was changing by design, certainly by design.
Yeah.
which we won't get into, but yes, it was changing, and I was raised to believe that the best thing in the world is to be married and start raising a family.
Yeah.
And that meant being a mother at home and being the wife and the homemaker, which was, I mean, what honestly is of greater value.
Yeah.
There is no greater value. You've been educated that it's the lowest on the totem pole, but no, it is the highest. You're shaping the minds of your children for the future.
Yeah, I agree.